Assassin's Creed is a franchise that I never really gave a chance. Growing up, I was more interested in other single-player games like Uncharted, but with the release of Assassin's Creed Shadows, I decided it was time to finally play one of these games and see what it was all about. So in this video, I'm going to be getting the Platinum Trophy for Assassin's Creed Shadows, and I plan on making this video the start of a new series on the channel, where I go for every Platinum and all of the other Assassin's Creeds in the future. The plan is to start with Assassin's Creed 2 and complete the rest in the order on which they released. Assassin's Creed 1 doesn't have a trophy list because it released so long ago before trophies were even a thing, so I'm just going to be skipping that one and watching the story on YouTube to get caught up. And speaking of watching videos, if you enjoyed this one, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe. I'm also going to be reviewing this game in a whole nother video. There's a ton of controversy surrounding this game. At the time of making this video, Tencent actually just made a deal with Ubisoft, creating a new subsidiary to handle the major IPs for Ubisoft. And while I have thoughts on these controversies, I'm not going to touch on them in this video. I want to focus more on the journey to getting the Platinum Trophy while sprinkling in a couple things that I like here and there about the game, or maybe some things that I found some friction with in my gameplay. But before we dive into the Platinum journey, we have to talk about the only missable trophy in the game.
Oh, no.
I believe that Shadows is the first game in the franchise to have this new mechanic called scouting. This mechanic has you send out scouts to specified areas to uncover the map and lift the fog of war. If you start the game in guided mode, it is impossible to get this trophy. The good news is that you can get this trophy within the first hour or two of playing the game, and so after you've gotten this trophy, you can switch to guided mode whenever you want. Which for my playthrough, I did because I'm not personally a fan of the scout system, but you know what? Props to Ubisoft for trying something new. Just like most games, the main part of the Platinum grind is completing the story. Because this game has only been out for a little over a week at the time of recording this video, I'm going to do my best to keep it mostly spoiler-free. I'm just going to quickly talk about the start of the game and a little bit of the narrative so that way you can get a basic understanding of the story. There are 10 unmissable trophies related to the game's story, and I'm just going to put it on screen and add it to the counter now. Assassin's Creed Shadows is unique to the franchise because it has two main characters with different backgrounds and two completely different gameplay styles. Yasuke is a samurai who focuses more on the brute force combat, while Naoe is a shinobi who focuses more on agility and stealth. The game takes place in feudal Japan at the height of Oda Nobunaga's rise to power. The story starts with a conversation between Yasuke and Nobunaga, and he takes interest in Yasuke and decides to free him from his current slave owners and train him as a samurai. On the flip side, Naoe lives in a small village training to become a shinobi. Her village is raided by Nobunaga's forces, and her father entrusts her with their family secret, giving her a hidden blade, and asks her to secure an ancient artifact. She eventually fails, and both Naoe and her father are injured by a secret organization called the Shinbakufu. They take the box from them, and the rest of the story basically revolves around them taking down the organization and reclaiming the stolen artifact. Overall, I thought the story was starting off strong, and then over time, the dialogue and the missions just became a little bit more bland and repetitive. This wasn't a terrible story by any means, it just wasn't a great story. I will say that I did really like Yasuke's part of the story. They kind of went with a Django Unchained vibe, and I gotta say, this shit went hard. Throughout the story, you'll also meet characters that can eventually become your allies. There are 6 of these in total, and they're not all a part of the main quest. I'm also just going to brush over this part of the Platinum grind as well to avoid spoilers, because some of these allies can actually become friends with benefits. And that concludes the story part of the Platinum grind. I'm going to be covering the story way more in all the other Assassin's Creed Platinum videos that I plan to do in the future. Just because this one came out so recent, I don't really want to spoil anybody and just let you guys have your own experience with the game. And before we dive deeper into the Platinum grind, I just wanted to quickly take a second and tell you guys that I really do appreciate this game's trophy list being so chill. I didn't have to grab every collectible, I didn't have to uncover every corner of the map. It was mostly just beat the story, do some fun challenges, and clean up some collectibles at the end. There were only 2 trophies that I found super tedious, and I'm going to cover those at the very end because those were the last ones I got. But moving on to the rest of the Platinum grind, one of the first trophies that I got was for assassinating 5 enemies in a row without being noticed or entering combat. The next trophy was for completing one of the side activities that allows you to raid underground tombs for high-value loot. There are multiple of these sprinkled throughout the map, but you only have to complete one to unlock the trophy. This is a theme that's going to persist throughout the trophy list. I started making my way around the map to unlock all of the fast travel points to help me in the future get around the map easier, and one of them gave me a trophy for reaching the highest point on the map. Throughout the game, you can unlock multiple different animals that you can put in your hideout. For me, I completed a mission where I helped the dog avenge its owner's death and ended up adopting it in the end of the mission. Placing him in my hideout popped the trophy. The next trophy that I got was for equipping legendary gear in every single slot. Fortunately for me, my copy of the game came with a redeemable code for a legendary set of armor for Yasuke, so this game is pay to win. In Naoe's skill tree, you can unlock a landing roll to mitigate fall damage. Doing this for the first time unlocks another trophy. At this point, I unlocked a lot of the fast travels around the map and visited every single region, unlocking another trophy. Yasuke has an exclusive side activity called Kata that allows him to practice his form with his weapons. Completing one of these gets a trophy. By far, one of the funniest trophies in this game is performing a leap of faith with Yasuke. Dude, he just obliterated the haystack. What the fuck? Ubisoft brought back the hideout, but made it fully customizable to where you can place the buildings wherever you want and decorate it however you like. The main buildings in this game have 3 tiers of upgrades, and you unlock the next trophy for fully upgrading one of the buildings. I got the next 2 trophies pretty much at the same time. At some point in the game, you're going to stumble upon a tournament where you have to 1v1 some bosses that increasingly get more difficult. One of the bosses was an archer, and I got the trophy for deflecting a projectile out of midair. And finally, defeating the last boss got me another trophy for winning the tournament. After defeating more high-value targets throughout the world, I was able to unlock the trophy for finding each piece of legendary gear. This just means looting legendary katanas, bows, armor, etc., and you can do this by either defeating bosses or opening up rare chests. The next 2 trophies were for killing enemies in creative ways. One trophy was for assassinating an enemy through a door. Huh? Yeah, I shouldn't have got that there. And the other is for kicking an enemy off of a high place. Full-on Spartan kick their ass. The hideout is an essential part for unlocking multiple trophies throughout the game. I got one for putting one of Naoe's paintings on the wall in the hideout, and another for engraving a weapon at the blacksmith. Earlier I mentioned that the main buildings have 3 tiers of upgrades in the hideout, and the next trophy requires you to fully upgrade the dojo and spend some of your resources to fully upgrade one of your allies. And finally, the last trophy in the hideout requires you to find the treasure behind the waterfall that's in the hideout. I was able to get the next 2 trophies for completing some of the parkour side activities, both related to the grappling hook. One of the trophies requires you to swing from one grapple hook point to another, and the other trophy requires you to perform a leap of faith off of one of the swings. Honestly, this shit's pretty badass in my opinion. I wish this happened more in the game. The next set of trophies is solely based on combat for both Naoe and Yasuke. This trophy requires you to distract the same enemy 3 times using Naoe's Shinobi Bells. The next trophy has you use Yasuke's Samurai Stand ability before finishing an enemy, and another trophy requires you to shoot an enemy in the knee with an arrow. Most of the trophies in this game revolve around doing some sort of combat challenge, and I really enjoy this as a trophy hunter so much more than the usual, you gotta go find 327 bullshit collectibles around the map. Shadows introduced the ability to lay prone in shallow grass and water to avoid detection. This trophy requires you to escape conflict by hiding in shallow water. Just like other RPG entries in the Assassin's Creed franchise, this game's enemies have health bars, and naturally stronger enemies have more health bars. This next trophy requires you to assassinate a powerful guardian in one attempt. This takes some investing in the skill tree and a little bit of build crafting to complete. And speaking of the skill tree, these next 3 trophies are obtained by fully upgrading certain skill trees for each character. You get one for completing the Way of the Shinobi for Naoe, one for completing Way of the Samurai for Yasuke, and finally one for upgrading all tools and ammunition between both characters. At this point in my playtime, I was stuck on a few trophies that I really didn't know how to get, and so I started looking to YouTube to find out what I was missing. Shout out to PS5 Trophies, you're the GOAT. The first set of trophies I went for in the cleanup phase for my trophy grind was related to fully upgrading my rations. This required me to go all over the map collecting new food recipes and bringing them back to an NPC. This also got me the trophy for completing a collection in the Codex. Man, I love me some 2-for-1 specials. The next 3 trophies were more combat-oriented trophies. One of them was for completing a contract in every region. You unlock the contracts by buying safe houses around the world and interacting with the contract boxes. The next required me to sheath my weapon immediately after an enemy dies from bleed. And finally, performing a finisher on an enemy that is both dazed and poisoned. And at this point in the game, I'm so OP that the hardest part for getting these trophies was finding enemies with enough health for me to attempt to do this. Now, earlier I said that the last 2 trophies of this grind were super tedious, and now I'm going to tell you why. The next trophy requires you to complete all 22 of Naoe's meditation side activity to unlock the trophy. The only problem with this is finding these side activities. I could go on a huge rant about how bad I think this map system is, but honestly, I just hope Ubisoft changes this in future titles to make it better for players, rather than trying to shove a $10 map pack down our throat in the in-game store to show us where all of these locations are. The last trophy took me by far the most time to complete. You have to get all 5 legendary Sumii. I probably butchered that, but that's besides the point. Unfortunately, you can't complete these unless you're in a specific season and a specific time of day, and there's one for each season. And the problem with this is that you can't manually change the time of day or change the season. This means you just have to mindlessly complete activities or just simply wait for the season that you need in order to complete this trophy. This was by far the worst trophy in this entire grind. But after about another 10 hours of gameplay, I was finally able to unlock the Platinum Trophy. To be completely honest, overall, I enjoyed the Platinum experience for this game. It was super chill and it wasn't super grindy, besides a couple of things. To me, this game had so much potential, but it really just didn't hit the mark for me personally. Don't get me wrong, this is not a terrible game. It's a decent game, but if I had to choose this or Ghost of Tsushima, I'm choosing Ghost every single day of the week. Like I said before, I plan on making an entire series where I go through and get the Platinum Trophy for all Assassin's Creeds, and I even will probably play the DLC. I've just always wanted to get into this franchise, and I just feel like with everything going on, it's the perfect time to make some content on it. Let me know in the comments down below, what was your favorite Assassin's Creed, and what's your thoughts on Assassin's Creed Shadows? If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.